Welcome to episode 164 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing comedian, actor, producer, writer, and director Joey Medina. Joey has produced several feature films and recently shot a pilot episode for his new TV series, which he is pitching to various networks. We talk about his feature films and we talk about his recent TV pilot, so stay tuned for that. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Over on iTunes, I want to thank Ted and Lisa who left me a very nice review. Thank you very much for that. It's very much appreciated. These iTunes reviews really are helpful. It helps to get the podcast listed in more places in iTunes so it reaches a broader audience. Also, if you subscribe to the podcast, then you'll get the new episodes downloaded to your phone each week automatically. So that's a nice, convenient way to stay current on the podcast. If you have a moment, please do leave me a comment or review over on iTunes. Thank you very much for those. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 164. I just want to mention a free webinar that I'm doing this Wednesday, March 1st, 2017 at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's called How to Effectively Market Your Screenplay and Sell It. I'm going to go through all the various online channels that are available to screenwriters and give you my unfiltered opinion of them. I get questions all the time about the blacklist, about Inktip, about various contests. So in this free webinar, I'm going to talk about my experiences with these various services. Again, this webinar is completely free. Don't worry if you can't make it to the live event. I'll be recording this event, so if you sign up, you'll get a link to the recorded event after it happens. To sign up, just go to www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/free webinar. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplay.com/free webinar. The word free webinar is all lowercase and it's all one word. I will, of course, link to it also in the show notes. If you already get my emails, my weekly emails, you do not need to register for this webinar. I will be sending everybody who is on my email list, I will be sending them all the details so that they can attend as well. So once again, the main thing I'm working on is post-production on my crime action thriller feature film, The Pinch. I worked with the editor last week getting my final set of notes in place. He's going to do a final polish and then output this final polish version of the film, hopefully in the next couple of days, and then we should be to locked picture. This week and next week, I'm going to be going through resumes and start to hire all the various technical folks that I need to finish the film up, a composer to score the film, a dialogue editor to clean up the dialogue, a sound designer to do all the sound effects, a colorist to do color correction. There's a whole bunch of technical fields that I need to bring people on. So if you know anyone who does any of these things, please do contact me ASAP. Again, in the next week or two, I'm going to be finding people and really settling on who I'm going to be working with. These various technical positions are not things I know anything about. So it's going to be a few months from kind of what I've talked to some of the people. It seems like there's going to be a few months of just, continued post-production, figuring out these technical things. It'll be a lot of work, but probably not a lot of work for me since I don't really know how to do any of this work. It'll just be the people I'm hiring. I know last week I said I would be at Lock Picture, so hopefully by next week I will officially be at Lock Picture. These things always do take a little longer than expected, but I do think I'm basically there and making some good progress. So, hopefully we're on the final stretch with this film. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing comedian, actor, producer, writer, and director Joey Medina. Here is the interview. Welcome, Joey, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking with me today.
Oh, it's good being here. I think all filmmakers need to, kind of do this, listen to each other, learn from each other, because film school is way too expensive.
There you go. So maybe to start out, you can kind of give us some background, kind of how did you get started? Even take us back before that. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment industry? And just bring us up to sort of those early days of your career.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I grew up in the Bronx, New York. I'm a Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx. The way I got interested in film, believe it or not, was my fifth grade teacher. His name was Mr. Morris Charnow. I still remember him, and he brought in fifth grade. He brought in a Super 8 millimeter film, project that he shot with the class before. It was 3 minutes and 10 seconds long. It was a Batman sketch kind of thing with no sound, because back then that film didn't have sound. And I remember watching that, mesmerized, my jaw dropped, not wanting to be in the film, wanting to make one like that. So in seventh grade, again in the Bronx, my homeroom teacher sold me a stolen Super 8 film projector, a screen, and a camera from the Board of Education, because it said it on the side. And that's how I started my little film career.
Okay, perfect. And then what were some of those first steps to actually turn it into an actual career?
Well, and I know this is more about writing, and actually I went to creative writing class when I was in third grade. So kind of I could see everything started putting together. It became more of a career, probably, I would have to say, when I moved to Los Angeles. Because I'll give you, to make it really quick, in between then and now, I've been a professional boxer, I've been a police officer, I've had many, many careers, and which take a lot of your time and a lot of your energy. But I've always been a creative filmmaker inside, and I've done little things, but I never thought, well, I'm not good enough to really do something big or anything. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, and to help my comedy career, I decided to write a script to put myself in, to star in, which was called El Matador. And as I'm writing the script, I realized I'm not this character. I can't play this character. It's not me. And my brain started going back, thinking like a director, like a filmmaker. And I said, okay, I decided I'm going to direct. I don't know exactly how I'm going to direct, but I'm going to direct, and I'll get someone else to play this part. And then that's kind of how it started. Okay. El Matador was my first official project.
Okay. And even take us back a little bit. I'd be curious to hear about, and I think it's important for people to understand that you had a pretty successful career as a comedian. And did you come out to LA? Like, were you already doing stand-up before you moved to LA? And then so you said, I'm going to take it to the next level, and that's why you moved to LA? Or did you come out here and then you started your stand-up career here in LA?
No, I started in Arizona, believe it or not, Tucson, Arizona.
Okay.
That's where I started my professional boxing career. And then after all that and my law enforcement career, I moved. I got into comedy, and when I decided to get serious into comedy, I moved to L.A.
Okay.
So the comedy brought me to Los Angeles.
Okay, perfect. So let's dig into El Matador for a minute. Maybe to start out, you can give us a quick pitch or log line for that film.
It's about a young boy who's trying to get the family jewels back, which is literally a pair of bronze bull balls back. It's an heirloom that went to his family. It was, I look at the film now and I'm like, oh my God, it was so much better now. I can't believe I made that one. But I also look at it and I'm going, it's like my little retarded kid that I keep in the attic when people come over, but I'm kind of proud of him, but not proud of him. And, but it was actually my film school, which I love. The people that are in it now, like, Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, he's in that film. Emilio Rivera, who plays Alvarez in Sons of Anarchy, and now they're going to do a spin-off of that. He's the lead of that. He's in the film. Felipe Esparza, who won Last Comic Standing. Paul Rodriguez is in the film. So many people that are doing so much better now are in this film, and it was fun, man. I made the film with $15,000, a lot of credit cards. It was on film, and I really learned filmmaking on it. But it still has legs, and it's good, and it's fun, and writing it was probably one of the most fun parts of the show.
Yeah. And so how did your writing comedy help you in writing a feature film script? Did you see some parallels? Are there some things that maybe you took from writing comedy into feature film writing? Maybe some differences, similarities?
Oh yeah, because it's all about timing. It's comedy is about timing, whether it's on a paper, whether it's verbal, or on a screen with images. It's all about timing. There's principles of comedy that work, and then once you write it and you shoot it, now you have to edit it and make it work the same way. So in filmmaking, it's very difficult to get, not difficult, but you need the talent to get what's funny on the paper and make it funny on the screen. It just doesn't automatically translate that way.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm curious. I would say for a $15,000 feature film, this has about the best cast I've ever heard of. And I'd be curious to get some of your insight into how you got that cast. I get a lot of people email me, hey, how can I get this actor attached? How can I get that actor attached? Maybe you can talk us through the process a little bit of how you got some of these, great talents into your film.
I was very lucky. They were friends, knowing your talent helps, because then they do it as a friend. No one got paid on my film. As a matter of fact, Paul Rodriguez, who's in the movie, at the time, Paul Rodriguez, that was the highlight of his career. Was he was right now George Lopez and Gabriel are out there. But at that time I shot this film, Paul Rodriguez was the biggest Latin comedian in the world. And I told him, I'm going to shoot your scene in a garage. I hope you don't mind. And he's like, no, you need a studio. I'm like, I can't afford a studio. So he gave me $2,000. He goes, here, rent the studio and some lights and do it the right way. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I wish I had him in every scene so that way I could make the movie. It would have been a $50,000 movie. But the way, the cast, I think it helps a writer when you write a script, writing for a character that you already think, or an actor that you already are imagining, because then you can write in that voice. One of the bad things about script writing, because I cover people's scripts a lot, I help people with their scripts, is that you can read a script and you can't even tell if they're male or female, if the character's male or female. They're very bland. They don't have any personality. In real life, if you take 5 people in a room and you listen to them talk, they all have different personalities. And that's the way characters need to be on that paper. They have to have their own personality. If you got that quirky character that could say anything and does crazy things, those lines, those thoughts, those ideas, you give them to that character. You don't give them to another character that does it. It's going to break. It just doesn't feel right. So, as far as for the film, the writers that are out there, how are you going to get this actor? How are you going to get this? Write for people you think you can get. Write for people you think even if they don't exist. Even if they're not famous. If it's your mom, if it's your cousin, if it's somebody that you write that, and then when you start casting, you cast someone like that. But it's very important to write write a character the right way. Don't write a bland character. If the character is too bland, it's not a good character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So how there's going to be a re-release of this film, and maybe you can talk about that just for a minute on how people can find that and potentially watch it.
Yeah, Netflix originally was picked up by a company called Maverick Entertainment from Florida. It was on Netflix. It was sold at Walmart and all stores, and it did pretty well. And now that I have the rights back, I'm re-releasing it with ScreeningNow.com, which is kind of like a Netflix for independent filmmakers. So, if there's someone out there who has a film or a project that they really can't get any distribution because it's a little too independent, Screening Now is a perfect home for a project like that.
Okay, perfect. And I will get that link and I'll put it in the show notes so people can click over to it. I want to take just a minute and talk about your short film, a movie called Missing. Maybe you can talk about that just for a little bit. What was your goal with it, and what was the story about, and then what was your goal with making a film like that?
Yeah, Missing I'm pretty proud of. Missing, I had an app on my iPhone where it isolated a color, and everything else was black and white and just would isolate with color. So I'm driving around, and I'm a passenger in a car. I have that app on, and I'm watching traffic go by, black and white traffic go by. The only color I had on there was red that was isolated. And I see a red car go by, and it looked so interesting, kind of like in Schindler's List with the little girl in the red coat. And I remember going, wow, that's pretty interesting. Then I was thinking to myself, imagine a horror movie where the only color you see was red for blood. Oh, that'd be interesting. But I didn't know, I didn't know how to make one. I didn't want to make one. I didn't think I could do horror. I'm like, you have to be really, you have to have a kind of mentality to do horror film. So then one day I learned how to do that, isolate a color in editing. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna try to make this film. I'm gonna make this film Missing as just a training project, so I can direct, shoot, edit, color. I want to do everything on I want to do DP. I want to do everything on this. Write it, everything. So I wrote this project. I got some friends together and I shot it in 2 days, and it was really good. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to try to start submitting this. And I won best screenplay. I won best director in the Horror Realm Film Festival. I won some other awards and some other festivals, and I was just very proud of it. It just turned out pretty good, and it's pretty dark. It's out there, and this budget was probably less than $2,000 to shoot that whole thing.
Okay, perfect. Is it online for people to see
Yeah.
now?
It's actually and it's free. Obviously, it's on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and put "Missing" Joey Medina, you'll Missing by Joey Medina, you'll see it.
Okay,
and it's pretty interesting.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll get that and I'll put that in the show notes as well. So let's talk about a TV pilot that you've recently written. Maybe you can tell us kind of what that's about.
Well, as a comedian, I'm a big fan of other comedians, especially other comedians that do the things that I do. Like, for instance, Louis C.K. Louis C.K., not only is one of the biggest comedians in the world right now, he's actually an amazing filmmaker. He writes, produces, directs, edits. He's the Robert Rodriguez of comedians. So I remember watching his show, thinking, oh, you know what? I wish I had a show like this. And I remember thinking to myself, wait a second, I can do it. I can write, produce. I have my own production company. I have all my equipment, have cameras, sound, lights. Like, hell with it, I'm going to do it. So I sat down and I thought, okay, what kind of script am I going to write? So I decided to take kind of like a snapshot of my life at the moment and exaggerate it and work on that and use real life stories and real situations to build the story. And then I came up with a concept. I call the pilot "Man of a Funny Age." That'll be the name of the series. So basically, it's about a middle-aged comedian who's struggling with being middle-aged and then struggling with a career that is not the same way it used to be, but yet you still got to keep the appearances that everything is still great. And because when people recognize you and people think you're a celebrity, at one point they always think you're a celebrity, and they don't understand that they don't always work that way in show business. You know what I mean? You could sell for a writer, you could sell a script for $1 million, but unless you sell another script, that $1 million is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's the same thing for a comedian or anyone in entertainment, especially, musician, anything like that. So that's basically what it's, what the story's about. I wrote it in probably 2 weeks. And then, as any writer should do, you get other writers, you get other people to read it, and you get more ideas from them. You get, you get some hopefully constructive criticism, and start building and fixing.
Okay. And so is that your plan now, though, is to shoot this yourself? You'll raise the money and you'll shoot it yourself, or are you taking it out to production companies?
I've shot it, done it, it's wrapped, and it's in the can. So now, and this was just recently, so now is to take it to some companies out there, hopefully Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, somewhere where it could hopefully find a home.
Okay, perfect. And you did everything. You shot it yourself, edited everything. Okay,
wrote it, directed, produced it, shot it. I did some craft services.
Okay,
a little bit of everything.
And perfect. Maybe we can go through your writing process just a little bit. And we can use this pilot kind of as a specific example, but how much time do you spend preparing to write? In other words, in the outlining phase versus in the actual script phase where you open up Final Draft and actually start writing script pages? What's sort of the percentage and how much time do you spend in each one of those?
What helps me prepare is I try to have mentally a beginning, a middle, and an end. A rough middle and end. Once I have that, I write down a synopsis or treatment, kind of 1 page, 2 pages, as far as it goes. I even try to put some dialogue in there, some jokes or whatever the dialogue is. And then sometimes as you're writing, you'll be, oh yeah, I could see it going here. Oh, I could see it going there, and you hash it out a little more. And once that treatment is done, then I start writing the script from that. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own style of writing. Normally when I'm writing a script, whether it's a feature or television, I have to go in order. I can't. I'm really if I have an idea for the end scene, I'll just keep. I don't have to write the end scene. I want to, because the end scene may change depending on what I write in between, and I really do. Sometimes I don't know what's happening next until I'm writing, because I really put myself in that character, whoever the character I'm writing for at the time, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it going here, because it's more natural. If Bob says this, I'm not going to automatically know that John is going to reply this way. But if Bob says this a certain way, I'm like, oh, you know what? Or John is going to reply this way. And it's kind of, that's the way I go. And I look at it. I go back a lot. I go back and I read and I start taking things out. I start going back in. I try to get my first draft done as close as possible when I write the words, the end, because I want that to be really tight. So I do a lot of rewriting as I'm writing. I'll go back up and I'll start writing again.
I see. So I think you said you wrote this pilot in 2 weeks. Is
Yes.
that okay? So was that 2 weeks all you were in final draft? So you already had an outline going into that 2 week phase, or that the outlining stage was included in that 2 week phase?
Yeah, it was included.
Okay. Okay. So from pretty much start to finish, you were able to pump out a outline. Okay, good. So maybe you can just take us through your process of, once you've got this draft done, how do you know when it's time to start to show others? And maybe take us through that process of getting feedback. Who do you show it to? And how do you take feedback from different people?
Well, in this project, every project is different, because it depends on what kind of project it is. If you're writing something that's horror, if you're writing something that's, so for writing, you want to give it to people who know the industry a little more, who know about writing, who know about first act, second act, third act. They know a little bit of something. They don't have to agree with you. Now, if they're way off, if you got some crazy kooky friend who's a filmmaker but who's horrible and sucks, don't bother. Don't bother. That's going to be a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
You want people that are kind of okay, and logically they're not crazy, they're more normal. So what I do is I say, hey man, I got this script, because I hate reading scripts, please do me a favor, it's a short read, it's a great read it, let me know what you think. And then they hit you back, and they give you they hopefully give you some really good feedback. And sometimes it's feedback you don't like, sometimes it's feedback you do like. And I also let them know, listen, if you have somebody who you think would read this and give me some critique, let me know, and they'll give it to somebody, hopefully. And then what I do with writing is, if I get a note, and if the note is, I hear the same note, or I read the same note for more than one person, I really pay attention to this. Okay, like 2 people are saying that this scene is a little slow. Let me go back in here. Or sometimes some people just give you a way better idea. Hey, instead of your mom doing this, why doesn't your mom do this? I'm like, wow, great. Yeah, why didn't I think of that? It's perfect. And then other times I don't agree at all, and I'm like, oh, let me think. Let me take that critique and let me put it in the back burner for a minute, but let me keep it there. And because I'm not sure, and then maybe a week later somebody else hits me up and says, hey, blah blah blah, and they have the same critique this guy did. I'm like, okay, then now it makes more sense to me than it did before. So what I do is I take all the information I get, and I put it all in my head, and then I try to spit out a better script.
And how many people would you say, like, and again, using this pilot as an example, how many people did you send it out to get feedback? Are we talking 2 people, 3 people, 10 people?
This about, I would say maybe about 4 or 5 people.
Okay.
No more.
And maybe just give us a little hint at what their background is. Are these other comedians? Are these people that have written for TV? Are the people that have written feature films? Are the people that are not even writers at all?
No, the first person was a comedian who's also a writer. He gets paid to write. He's written on shows here and there. The other person was the guy named Dusty Garza, who is now the consulting producer on the project. He has access to people who are professional writers, and what he did was he doing him a favor. They read the script and they got back to me on the script. And there's probably about maybe 3. It was one guy, and then that one guy also got 2 other guys to read it, 2 other writers that he knew. So it worked that way. And then I think maybe one other person read it, another friend of mine who's a comic. And then I would just take all these information, I'd take all this information. I went down and I tried to make the script tighter and tighter.
Okay.
Because the script, as all writers know, the script is a blueprint. You know, you can't build a house without a blueprint. And sometimes things change as you're building, and that's okay. And that's the process of filmmaking, all the way from writing to editing. But you want to be as solid and as sure as you can before you start doing anything.
Yeah. So how did you approach like the screenplay structure of something like this? You mentioned like Amazon, Hulu, Netflix. I think they're a lot more forgiving on sort of the structure, whereas I think network TV, you know, you got to have your advertisement breaks and teaser and cold open and these kinds of things. How did you approach those?
Well, kind of just think, I told myself, I said, it's either going to be, the project's going to be between 22 to 30 minutes. 22 for more traditional network like NBC, ABC, and 30 minutes for something like, you know, Amazon's, Hulu, to Netflix. And because I'm also an editor, so you know, I know where I can put my breaks at, and it's in the middle of transitions. It doesn't matter. So that was going to be easy. I don't worry about that. But personally, I don't necessarily want it to go to. My first choice isn't a regular network, ABC, NBC, CBS. That's not my first choice, because then I'm going to have less control. It's not. I think Netflix is more Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and you know, Screening Now, places like that. Anyone in the world can watch now, and I rather have a bigger audience, and I rather have the freedom to shoot something the way I want to shoot it as a filmmaker, not, you know, getting notes about this, notes about that, notes about this, and you know, and basically, you know, destroying your image and changing your image to something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Now, what else did you write? So you wrote this pilot episode. Did you write some subsequent episodes as well? Did you write a show Bible? I've gotten a lot of people coming through my site, and, you know, I have a script analysis service, and, you know, they're submitting episode 2 and 3, and I'm always like, you know, you want to make episode 1, you know, as good as you can, and you probably want to show Bible, but I'm not sure at this point there's a lot of purpose in writing episodes 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But maybe you can talk about what exactly you've written for this show in addition to just the pilot episode.
On this show right now, that's all I've done, because since I'm basically a one-man band on this show, I was doing a lot of the editing myself, doing all of that. Today is the day actually I start working on my Bible.
Okay.
I have written notes, though. I have probably about 20 different episode ideas that I'm going to start working on the Bible from these ideas. And to me, the Bible is very easy. It's very easy. I did a few years ago. I wrote a script and a Bible, and I did everything for a sitcom called L.A. Limo, and Madonna's company Maverick at the time picked it up. And then after that, Penny Marshall's company picked it up, but it never went anywhere. So I did a lot of work for no reason, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna do the work when I need to do the work. Mm-hmm. But every network is different as well. Like, you know, I think Netflix is when you come to them with an idea, they want to see a few scripts. They want to see a few episodes, because they want to know you can deliver more than just one. Mm-hmm. You know, the way I see it is this. The reason that some people ask me, why did you make an entire pilot? Why didn't you just make a sizzle reel? Well, the simple is because if I'm shooting, I'm shooting already. Why shoot, you know, halfway when I can shoot all the way? So in my thought is this: everyone in Los Angeles has an idea. Half those people have a script. Half those people have a sizzle reel. Not many people have an entire pilot, and not just a pilot that looks like a sizzle reel, a pilot that looks like it can air. And that was very important to me. My pilot, if you look at it, it looks like a television show. It looks like it should be somewhere. Not that, you know, I have filmmaker friends or other comedian friends who've done sizzles, or they've done a pilot of this, pilot of that. And you look at it, and it looks like a webisode. It looks, the budget, the quality is not there. It looks, the shots are weird. They don't look right. And you know, I mean, first of all, God bless them for doing that. They did something. But me as an executive would look at that and go, I wouldn't put this on the air. Doesn't look professional enough. Mm-hmm. This pilot looks very professional, and that was my goal when I shot it. And that's my goal when I shoot anything, really, is to make it look real, make it look bigger than it is.
Yeah, yeah. And so you think that gives you a leg up? In most cases, the people pitching to Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, all they have is a script, maybe a show Bible, maybe a couple episodes, but people are not taking completed episodes to those types of services?
Right, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very expensive. I'm lucky enough that I have my own production company. I have, you know, all my lights. I have all my sounds. I have cameras. I've got crew. I've got, you know, grip stuff. I've got anything you need to make a film. I own it. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe not the best, maybe not the most, but I own enough where I could, you know, I shot an entire pilot without renting one piece of equipment, and so that was important for me to do that. And since you could do it. It was difficult. Yeah, it was hard, you know, and it was hard to do it because I didn't have. I made a $200,000 looking episode for $4,000. And that's very hard to do, but it takes a lot of planning, and it can be done.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, fantastic. Maybe just to wrap things up, you can give us your Twitter handle, Facebook, just anything for people to follow along and kind of keep up with what you're doing.
My website is joeymedina.com. That's JOEYMEDINA.com. My Twitter is Joey Medina Comic. My Instagram is Joey Medina Comic. And my Facebook is Joey Medina Comic. And I also have that one gets full, so I have a Joey Medina fan page on Facebook as well.
Okay, perfect. I will round all that stuff up. I'll put it in the show notes, and I'll link to it. Joe, very good, and I will put the screening now as well. If anybody wants to check out El Matador, they can go to the screening now page. I'll put that link in the show notes as well.
There's a little trailer as well.
What's that?
There's a little trailer. So if you want to see the trailer first on screening now, check that out. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I will get the trailer as well. So, Joey, I really appreciate your coming on and talking with me, and keep me in the loop if when you get the pilot set up and that goes into production, you can come back on and talk about that process. I think people would be fascinated about it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome.
Perfect. Thank you, Joey. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, buddy.
Bye. Just want to mention two things I'm doing at Selling Your Screenplay to help screenwriters find producers who are looking for material. First, I've created a monthly newsletter that will be sent directly to producers. Every member of SYS Select can submit one log line per newsletter. I went and emailed my large database of producers and asked them if they would like to receive this monthly newsletter of pitches. So far, I have well over 350 producers who have signed up to receive it. These producers are hungry for material and happy to read scripts from new writers. So if you want to participate in this pitch newsletter and get your script into the hands of lots of producers, sign up at sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. And secondly, I've partnered with one of the premier paid screenwriting leads services so I can syndicate their leads to SYS Select members. There are lots of great paid leads coming in each week from our partner. Recently, I've been getting 10 to 12 high-quality paid leads per week. These are producers and production companies who are actively looking to buy material or are looking to hire a screenwriter for a specific project. If you sign up for SYS Select, you'll get these leads emailed directly to you several times per week. These leads run the gamut from production companies looking for a specific type of spec script to producers looking to hire a screenwriter to write up one of their ideas. Producers are looking for shorts, they're looking for features, TV and web series pilots. So it's a huge array of different types of projects that these producers are looking for. And these leads are exclusive to our partner and SYS Select members. So sign up. Again, just go to sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. So on the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing writer and director Chris Von Hoffman. Chris recently wrote and directed a feature film called Drifter. We talk about the early part of his career. He did a bunch of shorts and now has graduated into feature films. So we go through that whole evolution, and then we do dig in specifically to how he got this feature film produced. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. To wrap things up, I just want to touch on a few things from today's interview with Joey. I would really encourage you to look Joey up on IMDb. You can get a real sense of his career. I really like Joey's hustle. Even after many years of having a successful career in the business, he's still out there, you know, trying to get things done, trying to create new stuff, and just hustling. I think there is a perception from new writers that they just need to get that one big break, and then everything will open up and it'll be sort of a downhill. It'll all be downhill from there. But I think what you'll find if you ever get that proverbial big break is that, like Joey, you constantly need to be hustling and doing stuff and getting your own stuff out there and not waiting around for someone to come in and basically give you permission to make your movie. When I tell people, I'm on this podcast every week telling people, go out, do short films, go out, make your own feature film, take your script, enter contests, take your script, submit it to Inktip, submit it to the Blacklist, use my own email and fax blast service. I'm not just telling people to do this stuff to help them get that, again, proverbial big break. I'm telling people to do that so that they can train themselves to work hard and make their own breaks, so that once you do break in, you will be able to sustain a long career. The people in this business who succeed are the ones who are willing to work super hard and go out there and make stuff happen for themselves. Again, just start listening to a lot of these podcasts. Even the super successful people I've had on this podcast, they're always constantly out there creating new stuff, pushing new stuff out there. And I just think that's such a key part of the formula to being successful in this business. Really, it's probably the key to being successful in just about any business, but especially this one. You've got to just keep working hard and keep pushing stuff out there. And this sort of idea that you're going to get this proverbial big break and then everything's just going to open up for you and things will be easy, I just don't know that that's really a reality for anything but the very, very luckiest people. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you for listening.